So it is good day to you. So good to see your energy, your love, your light, your brightness, your smiling hearts. We want you to understand that you know what you know. You know what you don't know. And you know what you need to know. And you know that when you know, you don't know. We ask you to be open. We ask your hearts to know that you know. And that you ask what you get to know. For that is the energy. That is the illusion. That is the creation of you. Science is now backing up and supporting spirituality. You are each charged with going out in your community to be the bridge that you are, to be the energy that you are, to be the focus, to be the creator, to communicate with those who in the past you have said were normal, but now they are the abnormal, and you are the normal. You are the neutral. You are the ones that are focusing this world to be a heart-centered world. You are the ones that are bringing your friends and your relatives, your colleagues, your neighbors, and your neighbors from across the planet into the light of total understanding. We honor those who have sacrificed their lives so the world could once again focus on love in one location. We wish for you to know that love in one location acknowledges that heart. We ask that there not have to be a disaster, an attack, something that is interpreted as negative, for you to be able to send love to every part of this planet. We ask that you feel that joy within your heart that we see when we open our eyes and see your loving hearts. That you share that joy around the planet, and that we know is possible. You see, the peoples of this planet are healing. They are searching for their neutrality through you. So each day when you meditate, place that planet in between your hands and just ricochet the energy of love back and forth between your hands. And ask the leaders of this planet to also receive that love. We know, as we have seen, many things are going to change on August the 21st. Maybe we'll have a walk-in with Donald Trump, huh? Everything is possible. You see, but when you are complaining about what is happening or what does not seem to be happening the way you choose for it to, you are a part of the problem. So stop it. You must find a way to speak of all things from the positivity of your heart. You must find that way. With all things, everything is energy, yes? And intention is everything. Trust yourself. Trust what you know. Trust what you don't know. And when you hear yourself saying, I know that you really don't. Because if you knew it, you wouldn't have to proclaim it. Honor yourself. And as you honor yourself with compassion, that ripples out. For that energy is the new vibration of this planet. We were told by a channel, not one on the stage with us, but another channel, that the world was going to end on August 21st. Oh. Our response was, well, what would you do differently? The world, as you know it, ends every day. Trust that divine order is in process. Trust the light. Trust yourself. Trust the love of all of humanity. Honor who you are. And feel that vibrational frequency with you, with love. That is all there is. And sing the song of love. So the heart center will ripple out to the rest of the planet. And for this we give thanks. We are so grateful for you and your presence, for raising your hand to volunteer. We honor you. And know, as soon as you trust yourself, you will indeed know how to live. Namaste.
Beloved ones, we greet thee. 'Tis ALCAZAR. And we invite you once more to drop into the stillness, the connectedness that you can hold together. We invite you once more to invite all those guides and benevolent beings who have been with us these days to bring their energy more strongly into this space. Just ask and feel. Invite them to come closer. Can you feel the energy changing? The guides respond to your asking. You have heard these days so much to take in, to integrate. As you know, your experience of time is speeding up. You have heard of the potential of chaos in the world getting even stronger. You have heard that by being in your heart space, being in a coherent space, being in a peaceful space, those disturbing energies do not have to disturb you. You can be the center of the storm. You can be a resource in your stillness, in your love, in your caring. You can be a resource for those around you. Whether they know you or not, you may just simply walk past them on the street, and your energies merge for a moment as you walk by them, and they are touched just for a brief moment with your peace and stillness. This is how you can assist others, your simple beingness. Your societies around the world have conditioned you to look at things in a negative way. You are beginning to move out of that. These old programs are still within you. You recognize them when they are. We are going to suggest that when you recognize some of these old limitations, don't judge yourself. Say, oh, great, I have just recognized it. Because when you recognize it, you are conscious. You are conscious of being unconscious a few moments before. Celebrate the consciousness, the awareness, rather than judging the moment of unconsciousness that you have just moved out of. Why? Because if you judge it, you drop back into those old limitations. You have been shown some techniques of how to change your vibration, how to drop into the heart. There are many other techniques that we can share with you. Search them out. We have said you are on the leading edge of awakening. You may not believe this from your perspective, but from ours, this is the case. You would not be here if you were not. As we have said, your experience of time is speeding up. Beloveds, you can step out of time. This is the superconsciousness that we have talked about, that is you. By moving into the heart, you are moving into that direction of being in your superconsciousness. By listening to your intuition, you are receiving from your superconsciousness. Slowly, slowly, we are all moving to the place, to the experience of knowing that you are far more than this human part. Eventually, you will know I am superconsciousness. And eventually, you will be living your superconsciousness within the human form. That is the state that you have called enlightenment. And for those of you who have had the honor to be in the presence of an enlightened one, you know their energy. You know how it feels. They are light. They are high vibration. You are all vibrating beautifully right now. And you can continue to raise your awareness, to raise your consciousness, to raise your vibration, all words for the same thing. Beloveds, it is time. You are aware of your limitations. You are also aware now that you can move beyond them. They are not a statement of this is how it is and this is how it will always be. It is a statement of this is how it has been for so many lifetimes, and now I am changing it. I have brought myself to a level of awareness where I know I can change. Yes, it is scary. Why? Because you have been conditioned to be afraid. Yes, there is a natural level of fear which is about protecting the body. But there is a much deeper emotional fear that so many of you have been implanted in with your conditioning of your societies. It is not a real fear. Fear of change, you can step over with your intention, with your love of self. You have heard that the veils are slowly dissolving. Where are those veils, beloveds? They are within you. Your intention can change your world, internally and then externally. Love yourself as you are. Love your body as it is right now. When you love yourself, change becomes so easy, so simple. As you have heard us say many times, simply allow for the possibility, because you cannot know what you have not experienced yet. So you have to allow for the possibility that existence wishes to support you in the new you. It is time to start growing young. It is time to start enjoying your body. It is time to allow yourself to step into the freedom, the abundance, the love, the community that is waiting for you. Beloveds, on behalf of the whole universe, we love you. And feel now, for we are sending you a taste of our love. Feel. We love you. We await your awakening. Come, join us in this universal community. We love you and we bless you. We honor you deeply. And we will talk to you again very soon.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. It was my information some time ago. It said to you that as you birth a new energy on this planet, on or about the end of 2012, that there would be shift. That the paradigm that you're used to of normality would start to move away from where it is. Some people didn't understand when I said that the increase of light on the planet would also almost immediately increase darkness. I spoke of the dark army, which is here. And the reasoning for it is because as the planet comes out of darkness, darkness will fight the paradigm shift. And it is. Dear ones, darkness smiles today. It smiles because there are those who are weeping and crying and afraid, wringing their hands in despair. Policymakers are going to work. It's a kerfluffle of energy. It makes darkness very happy. We told you it was coming. Here it is. Now the next statement. Dear ones, you cannot kill darkness. Did you hear that? You cannot kill darkness. What replaces it can only be light, period. Light replaces darkness because darkness is a passive energy. Light is an active energy. Where light exists, darkness cannot. That's physics. You are the light. But you might be missing something. I want to talk about something, just briefly. Time. Go back with me. Before humans existed, you were here, by the way, in consciousness, because you're part of everything that is. You're eternal. We've told you this many times. This planet was just forming. Life was beginning. That which is controversial, perhaps to other spiritual systems, I will say again to you, life is a common occurrence on planets like yours, period. It comes with Mother Nature. It is a mixture of the electricity of lightning, of the magnetic grid, of the chemistry of the soil, of the things which belong to the planet. When mixed correctly, the spark of life begins. You're going to agree to that someday when you see life all over the galaxy for the same reason it is here. It was not brought to you by an angel. It was brought to you by Gaia. Gaia. And it was brought to you 4 times before Gaia got the balance right. It was a delay of life on purpose, so you would be young and present as you are now. And we've said it before, when photosynthesis started, suddenly you could exist and it could sustain itself. Gaia worked the puzzle, cooking in the kitchen for millions of years, having failure after failure until life formed so that you could be here, dear human being. Gaia. And now it is not just nature, where as you look upon the vastness of the trees, you realize that you are breathing what they are giving you. More than the trees, anything that's green, even down to the fungus, is giving you oxygen. This is the life force of your partnership with the planet. It's outside for you to look at. And why do I bring this up now? Because so many of you are missing this. You're not getting it. I want to give you something to think about. What is it you have in common right now with those in despair in London? You're both standing on Gaia. If you go hug a tree right now and encompass it in that energy and thank Gaia for its partnership with you, the very same rock that you're standing on, the magma that makes it what it is the same one for the one in despair across the ocean. This is the partnership with Gaia. You don't discount it, you just forget it. I asked my partner to put this conference here on this hot spot, this bubble, this Gaia intensive place, so that you could feel the power of Mother Earth and claim it as a mother, as a partner, as one who nourishes you, gives you oxygen, and knows who you are. Have you gone outside lately? Have you looked at it? Have you embraced it? Have you thanked it? It's not an it. It's a who. It is sentient. It is intelligent. It has a personality. It is Mother Earth. It is Gaia. It is your partner. It is forever. Dear ones, this is part of the field. This is part of the field. Take advantage of it now, because this interconnection that you have right now with the planet is going to be part of the secret of creating more light. Did you think about that? Everything is connected to Gaia, and it's ready for you to pour light right into it. That's why you're here in this, the Yellowstone. Now you know. It comes full circle, does it not? The reasons are clear. Perhaps there was a potential all along, because it was in the field, that the things that occurred across the ocean would occur today, yesterday, the day before, and you would be here as a group to offset it. to help those by sending light. The best way to send it is right through the ground, because they're standing on the same ground you are. It's not mysterious, dear ones. It's a channel that is from you to them, and it's right here. Many of you have received this message in compassion and love and the things that have happened this morning, and realize that it's going to make a difference. And it is making a difference to many right now. Continue. And so it is. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. Tonight I want to give you a story. It's a love story. It also happens to encompass the history of the planet, the now, the future. Things I want to tell you, things I want to qualify. Let's call it the state of the earth in June 2017. It's a love story because of where it begins, how it starts. If you go back 14 years, the channelings of Kryon began in Book 1. And I've told you some of the things that it said. But basically, it was an introduction to the shift. That I and so many others, who you would call the angelic realm or whatever, the voices from the central source, began giving you information about something that the ancestors and the ancients all knew. They had been watching the stars in the skies for thousands of years. They realized that the sky changed subtly from decade to decade to decade to decade. They started to understand the mechanics of the solar system. Way before modern telescopes, they had figured out that the earth goes around the sun. That the earth had a wobble, and even the duration of it. And through time, a prophecy developed that was so similar between the ancients that even today, you were amazed when you compare them, but they didn't know each other. The calendars began, the long count, the talk about consciousness shift, all of this. And in 1989, my partner started speaking for me. 2 years after the harmonic convergence, a statement that said the shift may occur. Something is happening. And in 1993, I gave you the information. Why we were here, what was going on, what would happen. Some of the prophecies, a cryptic book, a small one, where my partner was just learning how. And you might say, how to do what? And the answer you got today, is it possible there could be a coherence with the central source? And the answer is yes. It explains channeling. Enhanced intuition, the bridge to the other side of the veil, the feeling of complete love. And in this first book, I gave you information about the magnetics of the planet and more. Some would say it was cryptic, it was only a few sentences, but I gave you the information of the weather shift. My partner interpreted it in this way. He said that there would be times and places where it always rained when it never would be, and places where it never rained when suddenly there would be. In other words, massive climate change. That was in 1993. This is the precursor for what you are now experiencing on the planet. This is a love story, dear ones. And the story is the love of God, the love of the central source, the love of all that is, Gaia itself, for the human being. It's all about you, dear ones. The old souls on the planet are here on purpose at this time. There is no mistake. You're in the seat at this time. Some of you are just learning about these things. Some of you are very aware of these things. Each of you has your own path. Each of you has your own decision of what to believe and not believe. I'm just here to tell you a tremendous love story. That there was a shift coming, and that the earth itself was preparing for it for you. Posturing a way that you can advance yourself, learn about the coherence with the planet, with your own selves, talking about a time when humanity would start to come out of the old energy, which you call human nature. It never shifted, it never changed, and now it was going to. The prophecies were not about time as much as they were about consciousness, shift, and change. Whether it was the Mayan calendar or the Hopi prophecy rock, they were the same. They talked about different paths you could take, but a split that was dark and light. In their own ways, they spoke of a planet that was so in transition that if you hadn't destroyed yourselves by that magic precession of the equinox center, that something would begin. An evolution of humanity in a way you'd never seen before, and it would start with consciousness. And all that went with it. And you had to have an earth that was prepared for it. The magnetic grid would shift, the weather would change. So let's talk about the weather. For many years, I have spoken up on what is happening with your weather. And it was controversial from the beginning. 6 to 7 years, maybe more. When you began seeing that which was called the warming. And I said, it isn't going to be a warming, it's a cooling. You could track that back, for I wanted to set the record straight before others would come in and build another doom scenario, which is very common for humanity. I want to make a statement, and it's going to be repeated. That the doom scenario of humanity is so ingrained in you, it's a habit. And whenever you see something unusual, the first thing you think of is doom. You were trained to think that way. From history, from scripture, from your parents, from all those who would join in conspiracy theories that would come to a horrible end and seeming to enjoy themselves while they did it. The doom scenario, dear ones, is a habit. You're still not through it. This is a love story. I want to tell you about the weather. You want to track what's happening? It's solar activity. Always was. You can see the cycles of weather on the planet from the cycles of the solar activity as recorded in history. They correlate. It's not an accident, it's not a mistake that a cycle is coming. And we told you it would be 14 years ago. The cycle comes whether there are humans here or not. Should we say that again? The cycle comes whether there are humans here or not. Let the record show that the cycle is very consistent. Starts with warming, high carbon dioxide levels, goes into a place eventually of cooling. And the cycle was complete over and over and seen. This, we told you, would be a mini ice age. People say, well, when? Why don't you look at the cycle? The timing is there. I'll tell you. You will be into the cold portion within 15 years. Some of you are still enjoying the warming section of it. That will slowly start to move. It has to come before the cooling. A mini ice age? Is that doom for the planet? Have you seen the artists put pictures of what they draw about what that's going to be like with New York under ice and all of the other things that go very well with science fiction movies? If you want to know what it's like, just flash back in history and read what took place in about 1650. That was a mini ice age. The River Thames froze. It's cold. And it did not doom the planet. That's a mini ice age. That's what you're facing. And I'll say it again. If you live in a cold climate, heed this advice. It's going to get colder. Get off the grid. Heed the advice. Get off the grid. Within the next 15 years, find a way of producing electricity and all that you need independently in neighborhoods or homes, because you're going to need it. Dear ones, the grid as it exists right now all over the world is not prepared for this and will fail. That's not doom and gloom. That's just practical. That's just telling you something you already sense. Prepare for a cold spell. That's all it is. I want to give you a love story. Why does Gaia do this? What's the purpose of these kinds of things? I'll give it to you one more time. It's controversial. It's unbelievable. How many of you have fish tanks? Those listening, how many would have fish tanks? I'll tell you something you already know. You can do whatever you need to do to the water. You can change the pH levels. You can change the temperatures. You can aerate. But there comes a time when you got to change the water. This is what the temperature changes are about. This is controversial. Watch for evidence as this occurs, and remember this channel. The cycle is to refresh the life in the ocean so that everyone will have food. It does it by itself. It does it for a reason, so it will not stagnate. Oh, yes. Dear ones, you put things into the air and you put things into the water, but it has not caused this cycle. We have said for a very long time, stop killing the environment because it's going to kill you, not Gaia. Not Gaia. Gaia will survive anything you do. You may not if you continue polluting. That is starting to change, for you're starting to see this. You're starting to move with it. But that's not causing the shift. The reefs that are dying, that's not all you, dear ones. That is a cycle. It's almost like a reboot for the oceans, and you're going to see reports of this and this, but at the same time, you're going to see unusual reports of too many fish, too much of this, unusual this. You're going to see the life cycle of the ocean itself start to change and reboot. I want you, do not misinterpret this. I want you to watch for magic in Antarctica. It has always been the core of the refreshing of microbes and other kinds of life in this ocean, and is especially active during the mini ice ages. They refresh the life in the ocean. They refresh the life in the ocean. And how does that affect humanity in this love story? How does that work exactly? It means that you will have enough to eat. For the ocean is the giver of life. Food for the planet, part of the life cycle of Gaia itself. The earth must do this. It's all related to the solar activity and much more. The love story continues, does it not? And it had to refresh right after the shift. What is the shift? It is a renewal of absolute renewal of civilization as you know it. You passed the marker where destruction and termination was expected. You're overdue for a war. You know that. The sociologists are scratching their head. The scientists are. And then there's a team of people who are trying to tell you what is happening. The miracles that are before you. And what they're describing, dear ones, from my aspect, is the love story. The earth is being prepared so that you'll have enough food, so that you'll have a higher consciousness, so the ideas that are starting to come to you will be accepted, not rejected. So eventually, there'll come a time when you won't kill each other. I've said this before, dear ones, listen to me. The end of war on earth is not the end all, it's the beginning. For when there is no war, inventions will be given to you and physics which will be given to you, and you will not weaponize it. And that's where it really begins. The way of feeding yourselves, the way of clothing yourselves, the way of having health for all. The end of suffering for the planet. The beginning of politics that make sense, governments that don't argue, a coming together of a planet. I've seen it, I've seen it. You haven't. And so you take this information, you walk outside and roll your eyes and say, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Socially right now, it begins. Did you notice? Nothing is going to remain the same. And when these changes begin, the reaction is fear. When you say the economies start to shift and change, or a new paradigm being presented that must be done to save it, to have salvation of a system, you're not going to like it. You want everything to be the same. And when it starts, there'll be those who stand up and say, yes, see, it's the doom of the planet. Here it comes. They're already doing it. You're 5 years into the shift. Mother, how long does it take to raise a child? I'm hearing from the audience 40 years. That's not right. Let's call it 20. And during that time, the love story is there. No matter what happens when they're 3 or when they're 5 or 11 or 17. The love story remains no matter whether they're kicking or screaming or calling you names whether they're in frustration, whether they're going through self-worth issues, you're there. And you do your best, because the love of a parent is unsurpassed. You are birthing a new energy, a new paradigm on the planet, and you are 5 years old. You're starting to gyrate. Is it really happening? Is this really a shift? Is it a change? Or is it the end of the world? This is human nature. Come back in time with me, thousands of years ago. Come back, come back. Pretend for a moment you're in a small group called the Israelites. And you are about ready to move out of Egypt. You have suffered years and years of horror as slaves. You don't live very long, and you knew it. Generation after generation. You don't live long. You don't live long. And then it happened. And with your own eyes, Israelite, you may have seen the miracles that took place one after another that changed the Pharaoh's mind, right up to the one, the big one, the Passover. You got to see it with your own eyes. The plagues, the miracles, all of it. And then you were able to escape. And you gathered your things and you moved as a civilization across the desert. And you came across the Red Sea and you got across it and Pharaoh didn't follow you. That is the miracle of miracles. You were there, you were alone, you were free. You were free. You'd seen it with your own eyes. It went into your eyes, into your brain. You cognized it, you saw it. And then you started to go in the circle across the desert to the promised land. Here it comes, the promised land is coming, is coming. It didn't come fast enough, did it? And within 5 years, you'd lost some seniors, you'd lost some wisdom. The guidance of the seniors were falling on deaf ears. You were a young person, you were starting to object. You didn't believe in the one God. You've ignored everything you'd seen. Here it comes. Do you recognize the pattern? I sat on a stage in Israel not long ago and told them something they didn't want to hear. I told them they were still walking in circles. That the promised land is the New Jerusalem. And when they got out of the paradigm and the box of the old energy of hatred and fear and war, an expectation of the same from the other side, they would still always walk in circles until they had that. I'm going to give you information right now, dear ones. The love of God is not going to terminate this planet when you're 5. It's free choice. The precession of the equinoxes has a time. As it proceeds through the stripe in the sky, which is the Milky Way, into and out of that magic area. 18 years in, 18 years out. 36 years combined. A 9. Completion. You're 5 years into an 18-year window where we have told you that this is the time when you can make the difference. Listen to what is being presented. Don't fear that which others tell you you should fear. A mini ice age is coming to cleanse the ocean and to feed this planet. And there are those who say it is doom. And you're going to freeze to death. That's how much God loves you. Can you imagine going through all of this, going through the shift, having all of the information, all of the science start to come up to this kind of a fruition, going through what you've gone through, seeing what was predicted, fighting the dark army, looking at light and dark, showing what's going to have to happen, all of these things you're getting ready for, and God's going to snuff you out. How does it sound so far? Dear ones, that is a fantasy. I want you to celebrate the love of God. and the cycles that are here, the information that you've heard and understand, you're going to have to rewrite the doom and gloom. You had a movie the other night, science fiction film. I channeled before it. It's one of the first ones in years and years and years, where the aliens who visited Earth were a lot like you in their consciousness and needed your help. They didn't come to destroy you. They didn't bring great weapons. They didn't come to steal your gold or your oceans. There is life in the universe, dear ones, that is far more advanced than you. I'm not talking about the fact that they have bigger brains. I'm talking about they have compassion and wisdom, intelligence, and they have settled their own peace problems years before you did. They look at you. They have a hands-off policy because you have free choice. They've always looked at you. They come and they go. You've had civilizations before your own. I gave the channel in Turkey. History before history. There have been things that have occurred on this planet and beyond that is you. We told you that. We made historians angry as we would channel around the Sphinx, telling them that was not the age of the Sphinx. That it went back far, far, far beyond that. There are things you don't know yet, you don't realize, you don't recognize, but you will. And they'll all come together for you to realize that this is the pinnacle. You're about to experience more changes. We told you this morning that darkness smiles when you're fearful. It's up to you how much smiling goes on. We told you you cannot kill darkness. And the only way is to create more light. The more light there is, the less darkness we'll have on the planet. You are right now in the cusp of social discovery. Have you heard what has been presented on this stage? Those who are beginning to understand compassion, coherence, the meaning, purpose of the heart. It's starting. This is not the beginning of doom. I want you to remember that. When you leave this place, and there will be those, both esoteric and not, on the news, and they'll always tell you the end is near. When my partner was born, the first thing he heard in church was the end is near. He's heard from others who continue to go to his church, the end is near. It's always near. The box you have is that which almost demands that you're afraid. We've asked you to disassemble the box. Maybe it's time to create a new paradigm of belief, and all the others are shattered before you. Old soul, you are the forerunners of everything here. The shift. You're the reason you're sitting in the room or listening to this channel. Old soul, take this seriously. And if somebody tells you it's the end of the world, I want you to smile. And tell them why it's not. Tell them that God loves them too much for that. That's a human story, not a sacred story. It's the greatest love story of all. How much God loves you. You've made it through the shift, and you begin to climb a hill of change. Frightening, it can be. Scary, it can be. Difficult, it will be. Who better than one who has lived hundreds of lives and has the wisdom of the Akash? Who better than to take us as a planet through that? And that's you. That's the greatest story. That's the love story. Can you feel it? Can you feel perhaps the coherence today between me and you as I give you news that is good and that is fresh, that is promising, that is true? You'll see. Go from this place differently than you came. Be circumspect when you talk to others, so you won't frighten them with something that they think is a belief. Instead, it's a grand truth, and they can see it in your eyes because you're balanced with it. That's the message of Kryon. Let it be so, and so it is.